Hi, this is Anita.
I'm Chris.
I'm Peter.
And I'm Des. And we're the creators of FriendSurround. So this is my family, and right there in the middle is my mom. And my mom is legally blind. And I remember growing up, people would always ask, what's it like to have a blind mom? And I'd usually say something like, man, usually, most days, I don't even remember that my mom is blind. She doesn't let her disability stop her from doing what she loves to do. And my mom would go to blind people's homes and show them new technology for the blind. And she'd come home and be super excited about it, and I always thought that was so amazing, that this technology could help the blind community be more independent. So when I started doing software development at Brigham Young University, I realized that I had the tools and capabilities to also help the blind community become more independent. But you know, just having a blind mom doesn't qualify me for knowing the needs and the wants of the entire blind community. So we got to work. We rolled up our sleeves and started interviewing and sending out surveys to the blind community to gain a better understanding of what their needs are and what kind of technology isn't out there currently. And we got some really good feedback, and we narrowed it down to focusing on the blind and the pain points that they have in a social setting. So I'm just going to give you two real-life examples of some of the interviews we did related to these social activities. So for example, take a blind individual that's giving an address in a conference. Now, the blind community, they actually attend a lot of conferences. So for example, there's the American Association of the Blind, and here in Utah, there's the Utah Council of the Blind, which have several conferences every year. And at this conference, let's say this blind individual is finishing up their address and they need to announce the next speaker, but the speaker hasn't gotten there yet. And so they're like, should I stall? Should I just finish my address? But they're not quite sure if the person has gotten there yet because they can't see them. The second scenario that I want to talk about is from my friend Jacob from BYU. So I met Jacob on BYU campus, and he's blind, and I asked him a couple questions about his social interactions as a blind student at BYU. And these are his words. He said, "I love to be social and go and hang out with friends, but it's difficult to do that if it's at a large social event or party, since I can't just look around for any friends I know. Either I go with a friend who promises to stick by me the whole time, or I don't go at all. I don't want to be a burden and force them to chaperone me the entire time." With these two and several other interviews that we had, this all kind of came together in one interview that we conducted with a man who said, "I just want to be notified when my friends are nearby." And at that moment, it was just like, bing, light bulb. And together with Chris, Anita, and Peter, we came up with the concept of FriendSurround. Now, you might be thinking, wait a minute, there are 100 different apps that can help me find individuals or my friends at any given point in time. For example, Apple's Find My Friends, right? It has a map that shows where your close friends are at any time. But the problem is a blind person can't see a map, right? And so the solution that FriendSurround is solving is that it doesn't rely on a visual to know where your friends are. Also, the app's purpose isn't to know where Chris is at any given point in time. The idea is that the app will notify me when he's within a certain range, so that I can go and approach him, or he can approach me.
And with FriendSurround, we had a few core components we were aiming for. The first is to know who of your friends is nearby. The second is to have less anxiety about going to events and not being able to find your friends who are there or connect with them. And the third is to have an easier time connecting with your friends once you get somewhere. So we're able to achieve each of these three core components within our app. So here you'll be able to see a list of our nearby friends that's generated by gathering our location, their locations, comparing the two, And when they're within a certain distance, it'll show them here. Here, we also have, this is what a notification looks like when you are near a friend. You'll get this notification saying, hey, Desmond is nearby, or Anita is here, or you have 3 friends close. And then last, we have this page where once you click on one of your friends in that nearby friends list, you'll easily be able to call or text them just hitting these buttons, and that'll take you directly to a fast and easy way of connecting with your friends once you get somewhere.
Now you know what our app is, and here's our live demo of FriendSurround. Hey, Des is in this party. I'll call him. Hey Des! I don't know you're in this party! Now you're probably wondering how blind individuals use their phone. Actually, there's a feature implemented in our phone called VoiceOver. VoiceOver just read what user would select on their screen and then just read it out loud. So now I'll be using my phone to show how blind individual would use our app through VoiceOver. So now I can
My
click
friends
on it.
button. Move dog. Phone 99988877777. Button. Goofy Minnie Mouse. Desmond Jeffrey. Phone. Desmond Jeff. Phone. Name. Desmond Jeffrey. Phone. 801. Username. Desmond. Email. footballchamp22@gmail.com. Text. Button. Message. Text field. Is editing. Text message. Insertion point at start.
And this is how blind individual will use our app.
Once our app was complete, in order to evaluate it, we went to the Utah Blind Center in order to test it and to talk with and have actual blind users test our app. It was a very informative experience as we were able to watch these blind users interact with our technology. And in order to test it and gain some data about our app, we asked them a set of questions both before and after they used our app. The questions centered around our core outcomes of reducing their anxiety in a social setting and how easy it is for them to find their friends when they're out in these public settings. We also asked questions that had to do with how confident they were that their friends would download the app once they used it, because the app is it's a social app, so they need to have friends and they need to connect with them on the app. And then we were able to collect this data to understand how effective our app was at meeting their needs. From our evaluation methods, as I described, we were able to interview around 20 blind individuals at the Utah Blind Center, and we were able to get some really cool data from our questions that we asked them. Some of it is exciting and some of it was constructive in what we needed to improve on the app and other things that show that our core outcomes are being met. So 2 of our core outcomes were to reduce the anxiety of the blind individuals in a social setting, and also to increase their confidence that they would be able to find their friends who are nearby. And the statistics from asking our questions before and after were exciting in these areas. The average score for blind people, how anxious they were out of 7, was a 4.4. And after using our app, it was reduced down to a 3.4, which was a 14% reduction in the amount of anxiousness that they felt. When it came to how confident they were they could find their friends, it went from a 3.8 to a 4.8 out of 7, which was another 14% increase in how confident they were that they could use the app to find their friends, which was a significant, when applied with a statistical method, was found to be statistically significant increase and decrease. And some other things that we saw that were room for improvement, where we asked a question about how confident they were their friends would download it, on average was about a 4 out of 7, which isn't great, but shows us that we have some room to improve in that area. The most valuable part of these interviews was the qualitative things that we were able to interpret from them and be able to watch them as they used our app. It was really cool to see them use the app and see all the things that we had built
and it was very informative for us to actually see them work through it and use the app in a way that is frankly unfamiliar to us. But to see those things that we applied actually working was good for us now and in the future as things that we could work on. Some of the things that were very encouraging for us as we watched them is they seemed to really love the notifications flow that we had set up that allowed them to receive notifications when their friends were nearby, and they just loved that. And then also just the flow of being able to use it with their voiceover and other accessibility features. They commented how it was very easy for them to work through the app, which was obviously one of the main points of making this app and for helping them work through it, which was very encouraging. Obviously, there were other things that they thought could be improved, like they wanted, once you know that someone's nearby, some directions to get to them, which will take more time and could be a future development on our app. Throughout this project, there have been many things that we have learned that we feel are important, but here are a couple things that we feel like have been the most important throughout our project that we have picked up, that we have learned, that we have recognized. The first is that blind individuals just want to be independent and want to be able to identify who's around them all the time. For sighted individuals like myself, it's easy to look around and see who's around me, but obviously blind individuals can't do that. And so they really just want to be like everyone else. They want to have that feeling of knowing where they're at and who's around them. Something else that we have learned along the way that's very important is that a tool like the one we built is only as useful as the friends that download it to help them. It's great that the blind can have this tool, but if their friends don't download it, it's not going to be helpful for them at all. So as we continue with this app, as we continue to grow FriendSurround, it'll be important for us to market it and try to make it as easy as possible for sighted users who might not get as much utility out of it to use it, and to make sure that it's an app for everybody. And that kind of just brings us to our last point, that throughout this project we've realized just how much there is a lack of awareness for the blind community. They're people just like us, and they want to be treated people just like us, like normal people. We feel that FriendSurround is an opportunity for us to raise awareness for the blind community. So just consider when you're out and about that there are blind people out there, that when you see them in public, it's okay to approach them and talk to them and help them. They're just normal people. They just can't see. And so keep that in mind, I guess, as you go about your life, that is an important thing to remember and to be aware of.
If you see a blind person, remember that, we're also part of the general community, and don't be afraid to just be our friend. Don't be afraid to be kind and say a kind word. And if you would like to go up and introduce yourself to a blind person, that is fantastic. And at that point, if they need some help and you are available and can direct them in a way they might need, that would be fantastic. But I would just say, don't be nervous to be our friend. We are human just like everybody else. We like to go out and do things just like everybody else. So just be kind.